In December 1901, a young Italian stood on a freezing hill in Newfoundland, holding a telephone receiver to his ear, waiting for a sound that everyone told him was impossible. 3,000 miles away, across the curve of the earth, a transmitter in England was firing the same letter over and over into the empty air. And then, faintly through the static, he heard it. 3 dots, the letter S. The first signal ever sent across an ocean without a single wire.
3 dots. That's it. Greatest message in radio history, and it's literally the easiest letter in Morse code. Man knew his audience.
His name was Guglielmo Marconi, and he didn't invent the radio wave. Nobody did. Waves don't get invented, they get discovered. And by the time Marconi came along, 3 men had already done the impossible part. First was a Scotsman, James Clerk Maxwell. In the 1860s, working with nothing but mathematics, Maxwell predicted that invisible electromagnetic waves had to exist. Years before anyone could show one, he never saw a radio wave in his life. He just proved on paper that the universe had room for them.
Predicted an entire invisible spectrum with a pencil. No lab, no funding, just vibes and calculus.
Then came a German, Heinrich Hertz. In the late 1880s, Hertz built the apparatus that finally proved Maxwell right, generating and detecting those waves in his laboratory. He thought it was a curiosity with no practical use. We honor him every day anyway. Every frequency you've ever seen, 2.4 gigahertz on your Wi-Fi, 5G on your phone, is measured in hertz. His name is on every device you own. And in France, Edouard Branly built the missing piece, the coherer, the first device that could reliably detect a passing radio wave and turn it into a signal you could read. Maxwell imagined it, Hertz proved it, Branly let you hear it.
So, to recap, a Scot, a German, and a Frenchman built the whole foundation. The father of radio was a group project.
So, if the science was already done, what made Marconi the name everyone remembers? Simple. Everyone else saw a fascinating laboratory experiment. Marconi saw a business, and a way to talk across distances no wire could reach. Starting in his parents' attic in 1895, he pushed a signal across a field, then across a valley, then in 1899 across the English Channel. He wasn't a better physicist than Hertz or Lodge or Tesla or the Russian Popov, all of whom were chasing the same prize. He was more relentless and a far better businessman. He patented his system in England, built a company, and bet everything on one idea, that he could send a message across the Atlantic Ocean.
Everyone told him the curve of the Earth would block the signal. Turns out the atmosphere bounces it. He didn't fully understand why it worked. He just knew that it did.
And when it worked in 1901, it changed the shape of the world overnight. For the entire history of the human race, a message could never travel faster than the ship, the horse, or the wire carrying it. Marconi broke that rule. A message could now cross an ocean at the speed of light, touching nothing. Here's where it stops being a science story and becomes your story. Because once you can send a voice or a signal through the open air, the question becomes, what do you do with it? First, it went to sea. Ships could finally call for help over the horizon, a capability that just 11 years later would turn the sinking of the Titanic into the disaster that forced the world to regulate the airwaves for the very first time. We'll tell that story next episode. Then it came into the home. The 1920s broadcasting boom put a radio in every living room, and suddenly the air was so crowded with stations stepping on each other that governments had to step in and decide who was allowed to transmit where. That decision that someone has to referee the airwaves created the FCC, the NTIA, and the entire profession of spectrum management.
Yeah, that someone has to referee the airwaves part, that's the whole job. Some of us do it for a living.
And then it went to war, to space, and into your pocket. Every wireless thing in your life right now, your phone, your GPS, your car key, the satellite passing overhead, the Wi-Fi carrying this video, is a direct descendant of 3 dots heard on a cold hill in 1901. Marconi didn't just send a signal. He opened the spectrum as a place humans could live. They called Marconi the Wizard of the Wireless, but the real magic wasn't the wave. Maxwell, Hertz, and Branly handed him that. The magic was seeing that an invisible curiosity could become the nervous system of the entire planet. Today, that nervous system is so crowded, so contested, and so valuable that nations fight over slices of it like territory, which is exactly why the work of clearing, coordinating, and defending the spectrum matters more now than it ever has.
That's the origin story. Next time, the night the airwaves got their first rulebook and the iceberg that wrote it.
This is Smart Cat. If your work actually touches the spectrum, getting a system cleared, coordinated, or authorized to transmit, that's what we do. Links below. Subscribe, and we'll keep walking the history of the airwaves from the first signal to the fight happening right now.